All right, mic check, mic check. Hopefully this is working today. Let's see. Let me double check on my settings. Sounds like we're going good here. Okay, let me get my mic out of the screen here. Drop it right there. Let me see if you can hear me now. Yeah, here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Anatomy and Physiology here at Arizona Western College. I'm your professor, Dr. Sean Clavell, professor of biology, doctor of physical therapy. We are here at week 9 of the semester here, the fall of 2023 semester. Let me open up a canvas here for us and kind of just review where we're at. This is for both my online and in-person students here, just kind of review an update and a look forward as to what we'll be doing in the weeks ahead. So kind of get into the canvas here. I'll pick my online class here as an example. Right, there's your front page news where I'll be posting shortly. If I go into syllabus, that's where your schedule is. Give you the student view so it looks a little bit more familiar to you. Click on that lab lecture schedule here. Now, the labs are a little bit different as it pertains to my online classes, but let's take a look. The schedule is the same nonetheless. You can see here that we have just finished. We're here in week 9. We have just finished the skeletal system, which included bone tissue and skeletal system, chapter 6, chapter 7, and chapter 8, the axial and appendicular skeleton. So as we enter into the next stage here, we're going to be going over chapters 9, 10, and 11. Chapters 9, 10, and 11 here. And that will be joints, articulations, and movements. So a continuation of the axial skeleton, looking at where those bones meet. The articulations, also referred to as joints, particularly if they're more movable. And as it relates to movable joints, the movements that are related to each of those. So this might be a good opportunity here this week, right, where we're reviewing some of the movements, whether it's abduction, as I like to say, for abduction, or adduction, right? These are some of the movements that will be associated with here. So looking at joints, articulations, and movements. And then we've got the next couple of weeks found out for us to identify the muscular system. So the muscular system here. So muscle tissue, the muscular system. So chapters 9, 10, and 11. Looks like we got about 3 weeks here, right? 3 weeks to review those chapters before we get into our next assignment. And then finally, the nervous system. So the nervous system will wrap up our section here of the semester, our last section here of the semester. So the nervous system includes chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15. So the nervous system, the anatomy of the nervous system, as well as the somatic and autonomic nervous system. So again, we'll keep that in mind. One of those Thursdays is Thanksgiving. Let's see here, which one of those Thursdays is Thanksgiving here. Third Thursday in November. So something like that 23rd there. The 23rd might be the Thanksgiving holiday. So just as a note there as well. And so that's what we're looking at as it comes to as it relates to the future here, and a little bit more related here is the chapters 9 through 11. So now as I do it, I'm going to be publishing chapters 9 and 11 for my in-person students. That's coming up right now here. Copy to my fall. And one more time here for the 001 section. Okay, so let's kind of we're gonna do joints, articulations, and movements, muscle tissue, and the muscular system. What I want to add here as well is going to be an introduction into, or really just a list of the muscles that we should be familiar with. So I'm going to add that right here at the bottom of the page, and you'll see here. I'll scroll over to the side here, and we will copy to. No, we're going to add a document. We're going to add a document. This document is going to be a list of all of the muscles that you're going to want to know. So if I go to choose the files, skeletal muscle, muscle master list. I think that is the muscle master list. So I'm going to place that in there. I'll add that document here. Now this is all the muscles that you'll want to know that it relates to your practical, right? The practical, here's the list of muscles. Again, this might be at the bottom, and if I click on this document, you'll see that this, no, sorry, there it is. I won't download it because I already have a copy, but if I give you the view here, here's the list of muscles that you should be familiar with. Well, there's the buccinator, frontalis, masseter, occipitofrontalis. I might fix this a little bit, but the muscle occipitofrontalis is two muscle bellies of the same muscle, whether it's a frontalis and the occipital portion in the back. The muscles of the abdomen, muscles of the shoulder, chest, and arms. So there's the list of these muscles that you should be familiar with. Now, you might be asking, what do I need to know about these muscles? So there's three main ideas that you want to know about the muscles as we talk about them here. The three main things that we want to know about muscles here is their origin, where do they start, where do they end, and as a result, what is the action that they help to provide. So the three main things, there's a bunch of things like as you continue down your anatomy and physiology, particularly as it relates to movement, nervous system, and muscles, that you'll learn about innervations and what arteries supply blood to each of these muscles. But for now, all I'm going to ask you again is, okay, what is the origin? That's where the muscle starts. What is the insertion? That's where the muscle ends, right? What bone does it insert to, essentially? And then as a result, what is the action of that muscle? So again, let me give you a example here. So a resource that is fairly common is the Blue Link resources here. So if I find my chapter 11, actually I think it's underneath pictures. There we go, pictures, Blue Link anatomy, cadaver images here. Cadaveric muscles. Let me just go on those muscles here. So let me go with some of the bigger muscles of the hip to start with. And maybe that first muscle here is the rectus femoris. So again, the origin or insertion might be referred to as the proximal or the distal attachment point. So what we want to know for this class is going to be the proximal attachment. Let me see if I can't document here for you guys. Okay, give you that view, give you the markup. So what's happening here is that the proximal attachment point, that's going to be what's known as the origin, right? So the proximal attachment point, the distal attachment point might be referred to as the insertion. So hopefully this might be familiar, right? The rectus femoris is actually one of the, and you can see it here, one of the muscles of the quadriceps group, right? So one of the quadriceps group. And so it starts at a bony landmark that hopefully we're familiar with, the anterior superior iliac spine. So that point right there up at the hip, right there at the point of the hip there is the anterior superior iliac spine. And then, as we mentioned, this is one of the groups of the quadriceps muscle. Oh yeah, because this is a lateral view here. So this is one of the groups of the quadriceps muscle. That's the muscle there. And so it inserts into the tibial tuberosity or the patellar tendon. So the patella, then the tibial tuberosity. So it extends the knee via the patellar tendon. So the other part here is the action. And so the quadriceps muscles are responsible for extending your knee, right? So the action here, its primary action is the extension of the knee joint. It does help a little bit in flexion of the hip, and that's as a result of its attachment site at the anterior superior iliac spine, which crosses the hip joint and causes it to flex the hip. So again, the main things that we want to identify here are going to be the proximal attachment point or the origin, the distal attachment point or the insertion, and then the actions. You can see here that I'm only asking for these three components that you should be familiar with of each of the muscles, and then and then you can see there's other parts, whether it's the innervation, the arterial supply, right, is that I'm not going to ask you to know for this class. And then, and so like you can see this, there's a table here, and there's a number of different, and this might be the way that you might want to, let's see if I can find another there. So you can see there's tables here, and so proximal distal attachment site, remember proximal attachment sites also refers to as the origin, the distal attachment sites also referred to as the insertion, and these are the quadriceps femoris, it's that muscle right here, quadratus femoris, it's a square, a rectangular shaped muscle, that's where it gets its name from, quadratus. And so you can see that there. It's got the proximal, the distal attachment site, and the action. So it externally rotates or laterally rotates the hip. Now you'll find these throughout a number of your resources. So if you kind of come to Bio 201. What might be helpful for you guys to do is to make a chart. So I've made plenty of these before in my academic career, but it looks like comprehensive table. It might, I think it, let's click on that one, and then we'll click on another one. Yeah, and then slides. Chart, and I'll give you a student copy here. So what I do is, again, you could do any variation of it, but one way that I do it is I make a list just like this, right? So I identify the action, the origin, and the insertion. So it's kind of a chart here that I can help to. Flashcards is another useful resource to help with. But you make a chart like this, whether it's on an Excel sheet or even just on a blank sheet of paper, where you kind of make the columns accordingly. And again, the name of the muscle, the action, the origin, and the assertion. One of the important fun things is that what we'll notice is that the orientation, where the muscles are located, help us to indicate what is the action that's observed. And so we'll start to learn patterns in which, the muscles of the forearm are related to flexion. The muscles of the back of the forearm are related to extension of the hand and fingers. So when you start to identify the muscles that are in a particular region, you can then infer what their actions are as a result. But something like this would be really helpful, whether you make it on an Excel sheet, on a blank sheet of paper, or anything of the like. You, again, name the muscle, the action, the origin, and then our Blue Link has even created a very similar. So muscles like where's everybody's favorite? Bicep brachii. This is kind of the most common muscle here, right? So the biceps brachii, bicep, bi referring to two, has two origins. So you've got the long head of the biceps, which originates at the supraglenoid tubercle of the scapula, so just above the glenoid fossa of the scapula. There's a tubercle which the biceps long head inserts into, and then the second part is the coracoid process of the scapula. It'll ultimately insert into the radial tuberosity of the radius, and then what we also have to know here is that it opposed supination. It is a supinator and a elbow flexor. It is a supinator and an elbow flexor. There's the muscle, right? There it is. Biceps referring to 2. So there is, let me see if I can't mark this up. Okay, nonetheless, here we go. There's one head of the biceps, so that's the short head. This is the one that's going to insert right into the coracoid process right there. So there's the biceps, and then the long head of the biceps, I'll maybe make a different color, maybe like green. Here's the green, maybe a little bit thicker. There it is. This is the long head of the biceps. And so the long head of the biceps, this is the deltoid muscle that's kind of hiding it. Kind of comes right in there. Right. So a bad picture there, but you get the idea. So again, I encourage you to kind of start early, right? To start to identifying these muscles. Make a list, make a sheet here. The list of the muscles, I've got it on a form right here. The list of those muscles. Then next you will make a couple of rows or columns here. Those columns would say what is the origin, what is the insertion, and as a result, what is the action of those muscles. And so that is probably going to wrap it up for us here this afternoon as we continue down the anatomy and physiology road here. I encourage you to take a look at Chapter 9 at your earliest convenience, as well as Chapter 10, because muscle tissue physiology is really kind of a bear to start to understand. And so the earliest that you can initiate that review is going to be beneficial. But again, I will close with encouragement for you guys. You're doing great. I look forward to your responses all the time. And I hope that you're enjoying the course here as we continue through the anatomy and physiology, particularly as it relates to movement, looking at muscles, the skeletal system, and in the future, the nervous system. But again, keep up the good work. Thank you guys for your time. I wish you the best. I look forward to all your responses here, as I always do. Take care and stay safe.